All right. So Judge Mathis had some things to say about you because you was on an Art of Dialogue a couple weeks ago. Keeping the lights on over there. You went viral, and Art of Dialogue asked you about Judge Mathis because prior to that, Judge Mathis came on the show and he mentioned your name. So you and Judge Mathis are having kind of like a back and forth. And it all stemmed from when you called Kamala Harris a piece of shit last year when she was running for office. And this year, Judge Mathis said, he was defending Kamala Harris, and you could go into details with that in a second. So, and then you responded, Judge Mathis responded, and then you just shut it down the last time you was on Art of Dialogue. And now you got Judge Mathis on the ropes because he's responding to you for disrespecting his wife and son. So now he's trying to make it very personal. This is going viral. People been blowing up your phone, basically with the bullshit.
Well, you know what? It's like this. Uh, let's go back to junior high school. You're sitting on the playground. It's lunchtime. You're bored, and some people are running the dozens, talking about each other's mamas. And the whole idea is to be witty and humorous about it, and people are laughing. Somebody comes in walking by and decides he wants to get in on it, and he wants to crack on somebody. And what happens is somebody comes up with something a lot more witty and profound and really makes him sound bad, and he gets mad about it. Well, see, for the last several years, I've been campaigning against the poison represented by the Biden-Harris administration. I said some things about Kamala Harris Imhoff that I thought were accurate and sustained by her continuous lifetime conduct. And Mathis was behaving as a typical Democrat who belongs on their plantation. And he was very defensive of her. And way after the campaign was over and Mr. Trump had been elected to president this year, as a matter of fact, he opened his mouth and started talking about Judge Brown called Kamala Harris a hoe. And if he called my wife a hoe, I'd do such and such and such to him. I'd never mentioned his wife, never mentioned him. He brought his family into the mix. And they asked me a question on Art of Dialogue about it. And I said, I don't really want to talk about it, but since you bring it up, I don't know his wife, and I hope she's not a hoe, but if she is one, then whatever gets said about her, that's his problem. And I said, I think the fundamental misfit here is that he is a loyal Democrat, and he wants to defend that plantation that the Democrats still run. This time for Queen Rainbow rather than King Cotton.
Well, how did
so and his family came into this, and I said, I think I understand where he's coming from. I took a moment to watch that thing. What is it, Mathis at Home? And I said, Hollywood tried to get me to do that for years, and I refused. I wasn't going to push that rainbow agenda. That's their business. This is America. Do what you want to do. Get your freak on in your bedroom. That's your business, not mine. I just don't like the ideology that's being pushed in what it's doing in the big social picture, the big political picture. And we talked about that many times on this production we do here. So I just said, okay, that's his business. If he wants to get it on, or his children are practitioners, that's his problem, not mine. More power to him. So I just said, I think what's going on is he's pushing Rainbow and he's pushing Democrat, and the two of them are pretty synonymous these days, and he doesn't like me. So that's essentially all I said. And I made a remark about some of his options. For instance, we're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court. Several members of the current U.S. Supreme Court are from the second judicial circuit, rather. And I remember myself, Judge Napolitano, and Judge Mathis got an invitation about 20 some years ago to attend a judicial conference that the Second Circuit was having. There were Second Circuit appellate judges in the audience, some members of the U.S. Supreme Court in the audience, some people that wound up on the U.S. Supreme Court over the last 20 some years in the audience. And I was there, Napolitano was there, and Mathis sent an announcement that he had something more important to do, which was rehearse for a gospel concert. Well, the topic was television in the courtroom, which the appellate courts of the United States were considering, and also the negative impact of Judge Judy on the judicial process. But he declined to go. So he considered entertainment more important than the business of being a judge. Now, as to what he just did this week on Art of Dialogue, I'd make the following comments. For a judge, it's very, very bad to get yourself in a position where somebody could accuse you of doing what others are pointing out happened with Charlie Kirk, which is somebody setting the stage for somebody taking some violent action against the person who is the target. Now, this implication that he's got friends in Memphis or followers in Memphis who would do me some harm. Well, I've been here for the last 50 years and I get a pretty good reception from the people of Memphis, white, black, brown, red, yellow, wherever I go. So he may have somebody here, but it's kind of a stupid street move to be implying that you're going to, or you have talked to, or there are things that people want to do that are harmful to somebody else. That's kind of stupid. You don't even bring that up. That's not a wise street move.
Yeah.
And being an old man, I challenge my intellect against his any day of the week. And I think his would come up wanting. And when it comes to a TV show, I was number one or number two for years. He was way down 150 something, and he just kept going because he pushed that rainbow stuff. So, shall we say, with enthusiasm, and I didn't.
Right. So let's get back to the streets thing, because, you know, I don't know why he felt the need to bring up that some men from Detroit and Memphis and Atlanta called him up saying, you want us to handle it. And he had to back them down. You've been to Atlanta, you've been to Detroit, and you live in Memphis. So if anybody had a problem with all the other things, because you have said a lot of stuff about a lot of people, no one never approached you, but he was basically trying to punk you.
Well, the point is, I don't need him to back anybody down from Memphis. I'll do that myself.
Well, you ain't scared.
I ain't scared. It sounds exciting to me. I mean, but, you know, he shouldn't have done that. Should have kept himself out of it. And if anybody calls him up, you know, don't tell me, because when you do that, you know, Tennessee says if you have to engage in self-defense, the knowledge of the defendant, which would be me, of the propensity for violence of his assailant can be taken into consideration as to the reasonableness of his response. Now, I mean, that's a real dumb act to go do that. See, he's selling what we used to call wolf tickets. In other words, you're woofing about what you're going to do. But it's not a good thing when somebody buys a ticket to the performance and says, all right, let me see it.
Right.
Or buy or book a tickets to the premiere conformance, wants an encore and a curtain call. That kid's crazy. But see, he's never been particularly a bright somebody. He was, I think, the youngest judge ever elected in Michigan, and it came about as a result of some police citizen problems they were having back in Detroit at the time. So he runs up against that thing of you hold an office, but you lack the experience and wisdom in life and the experience and knowledge that goes along with the profession at the time you come in. So he comes in, he gets his show in his early 30s, and he's a rookie at what he's doing. So that's him, and he exploited it. He ran with it. More power to him, but
Well, here's the thing with me that I found was weak, because you mean to tell me grown men from multiple cities called you up and say, oh, we could go handle the judge because what? He hurt your feelings because he mentioned your son who is gay? So grown men wants to handle you because you mentioned his gay son?
Well, it sounds like this thing I've been talking about. We need to watch this rainbow cult crowd that is trying to talk itself into, psych itself into committing violence against people they don't like. So I know he's not talking about ordinary street people, because in Memphis, I know them.
Well, it's a lot of homo thugs.
Yeah, I know that, doing penitentiary time. So he's not talking about the straight thugs. He's talking about the rainbow cult bunch. But that's his business. If that's his close in, that's just part of the problem. That's what gives him his perspective.
Is this the end between Judge O'Brien versus Judge Mathis?
Look, I don't really care. I think he's a classic illustration of sometimes it's not a question of whether somebody is a fool, but how big a fool can the fool be? So I think he's trying to elevate himself up to some position of relevancy by ramping this up and getting attention. So, it is what it is. And he implicated, I'm told, something about dealing with my family, so I don't know how true that is, but, young man, back off before you paint yourself into a corner where the paint won't dry and you can't get out of it without leaving tracks. And by the way, dude, you want to have a debate, see who's sharp? This old man, might embarrass you.
Because you did debate Michael Harry Dyson. That was really good.
Yeah, I cut him down, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
And we can do about other stuff too. We can talk about how good somebody's wife looks versus somebody else's wife and girlfriends, and who made the most money and who's got the most
I think that's
vigorous reputation in law, and who's handled the most cases as a trial lawyer or as a trial judge.
Yeah,
we can talk about that.
I think the girlfriend wives, that's teetering on pettiness a little bit.
I know it is, but I'm just saying from petty to big.
Right.
And see, Mathis couldn't engage in a discussion like we just had in our last episode, talking about what the U.S. Supreme Court's doing. He said on a nationally televised thing, it was me, Mills Lane, I think Judge Alex, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe somebody else there. Judy wasn't there. and it was on a question of constitutionality, and he made the remark that all the rest of the judges were just aghast at. He said, if it was left to me, I would declare the U.S. Constitution unconstitutional. Like, Judge Mathis, how are you going to declare the Constitution of the United States unconstitutional? Well, they called me 3/5 of a person. They didn't say you were 3/5 of a person. It just said, for purposes of apportioning Congress, 3/5 of all slaves shall be counted toward that number. Didn't say anything about you a 3/5 of a person. And by the way, the person that started that was H. Rap Brown on some remarks expanding on some that, let's see, who was that? Way back in the mid-60s, Stokely Carmichael came up with. It was kind of a little punchline he used to put when he was talking to crowds. I heard it live a few times.
Let me ask you this one last thing here. Do you think that it is a bad look to have two professional grown Black men who are judges go back and forth on social media?
That's First Amendment. I'm not the one going back and forth. I'm just responding to this just out of the dignity of the situation. I mean, you know, he's the one that wants to bring it up. He's trying to go rant about his family. And it sounds to me like he doth protest so much, as William Shakespeare said, thou doth protest too much. He seems very defensive about his children and their sexual proclivities. He seems very defensive about his wife and how he winds up trying to equate them with something I was doing, campaigning for Mr. Trump for president to restore some sanity to this republic. I don't get, but he chose to make that connection, so he brought that on himself.
I think you two should have a debate, and I'm here for it. And honestly, maybe I'll put my nose in it to see if I could make that happen.
By the way, let me ask a question. What would we debate?
Well, what did you and Michael Eric Dyson debate? Because listen,
well, yeah, the Michael Eric Dyson is 60
Judge Mathis
plus
is a liberal. He's a liberal. He's a Democrat, so y'all could debate that. What's better for Black people, the Republican or the Democrat Party? You know, something along those lines. And that,
yeah, well, but see, Dyson at least tried to be a scholar. He has a game he runs, but you know, I got right straight through that. I wasn't selling a book or anything else, which is what he was trying to do while he was there. And he was also trying to campaign using the Democratic Party platform, which was victimhood and quotas and stuff like that, rather than performance excellence and being able to do it yourself. So I understand that, but I mean, Mathis isn't exactly a political figure. I mean, he hasn't exactly tried a whole number of cases in the real world. He hasn't presided over them or defended them or prosecuted them. So he doesn't have the breadth of cases. So what would he do? He immersed himself in Hollywood and entertainment, gospel and TV for most of his adult career. I came into that when I was in my 50s. So I had a long career that's as long as the one he's had in television I had in the real world. So what would he have to say? Just curious.
I guess nothing.
Yeah, well, there you go. Did he know any of these people? I mean, he knows the gay thug out there, apparently. And he's also lying about it, because you are a damn fool if you give your phone number out to street people in the United States of America so they can call you at home, or all these his homeboys he knows on the streets on the gay side in Memphis and Detroit and Atlanta and other places like that. See where I'm saying? See where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Wolf tickets, boy. Don't be selling no wolf tickets.